Mr. Kang, if you open that envelope, someone in this room may not live to see morning. Evelyn Carter's voice was barely louder than the rain tapping against the floor-to-ceiling windows, but every man at the table heard her. Her fingers tightened around the silver coffee tray until the polished edge pressed into her palm. 12 seconds earlier, she had been invisible. Just the black Maid moving quietly between men whose watches cost more than she earned in a year, collecting porcelain cups and replacing untouched glasses of water. Now 11 pairs of eyes were fixed on her. At the head of the black marble table sat Adrian Kang, 38 years old. Korean American. Immaculate charcoal suit. No tie. No wasted movement. Men in Chicago whispered his name more often than they spoke it. Adrian did not raise his voice when he wanted obedience. He didn't need to. And tonight, even he seemed surprised. His hand remained suspended above the cream-colored envelope that had arrived less than a minute earlier. Excuse me? Victor Hans said. Evelyn swallowed. The private conference room suddenly felt colder. She knew the rules of the Kang estate. Never interrupt a meeting. Never touch anything on the conference table. Never ask what Adrian Kang's visitors wanted. And above all, never behave as though the conversations happening around the household staff were meant for them. Invisible people survived. Evelyn had spent 3 months becoming very good at being invisible, until she saw the envelope. Take the tray and leave, Victor said. His voice carried the quiet contempt of a man correcting an employee who had forgotten her place. A few men shifted in their chairs. One almost smiled. Evelyn should have apologized. She should have lowered her eyes, walked through the oak doors, and convinced herself that whatever happened afterward wasn't her responsibility. Instead, she looked at the symbols printed beneath Adrian's name, 0.7 small marks, 0.3 numbers, a broken line. Then the same sequence repeated with one character. Missing. Her stomach tightened. She had seen patterns like that before, a long time ago, before cleaning uniforms, before overdue bills, before life taught her that knowing something and being asked what you knew were two very different privileges. Evelyn. Adrian knew her name. That surprised her almost as much as his tone. His dark eyes stayed on her. Not angry. Not yet. What did you see? Victor leaned forward. Adrian, she's housekeeping. The room went still. Adrian never looked away from Evelyn. I know what she does. For quiet words, Victor leaned back. Outside, lightning flashed over the wet Chicago skyline, bleaching the windows white for half a second. Evelyn carefully placed the tray on a sideboard. Her hands were trembling. Her eyes were not. The spacing, she said. Adrian glanced down. What about it? It's wrong. One of the security men gave a short laugh. Evelyn heard it. She continued anyway. The characters look random because you're reading them as a sentence. And you aren't? Adrian asked. No, sir. She stepped closer. Victor immediately rose. You don't approach Mr. Kang without permission. Evelyn stopped. Adrian lifted one finger. Victor froze. Come here. 2 words changed the temperature of the room. Evelyn approached the table. Up close. The envelope looked even more ordinary. Heavy paper. Expensive stock. Adrian Kang printed neatly across the center. But whoever had prepared it had made one mistake, or perhaps they had wanted exactly one person to notice. Evelyn pointed without touching. First character. Then count 7. Adrian followed. Again, she whispered 0.7 more. His expression didn't change, but the man beside him stopped breathing for a moment. Evelyn continued 0.7, that the meaningless characters began forming something else. Numbers. A time. 21:40. Adrian slowly checked his watch. 9:17 p.m. 23 minutes. Nobody laughed now. Victor stared at the envelope. What the hell is this? Evelyn's gaze moved to the next sequence. Her pulse became louder in her ears. There it was. Then the final word. Gate. Her mouth went dry. Adrian had been scheduled to leave through the east gate at 9:40. Everyone at that table knew it. Evelyn hadn't. She looked up. For the first time since she'd entered the room, Adrian Kang's face changed. Not fear. Calculation. Cold and immediate, he reached for his phone. Cancel the convoy. Victor stood abruptly. What? Now? Adrian, we have 20 men waiting outside. The route has already been cleared. Then clear another one. The words landed like steel. Chairs moved. Phones appeared. Men who had dismissed Evelyn seconds earlier were suddenly speaking over one another. Adrian remained seated, watching her. Evelyn thought she had done enough. She reached for the coffee tray. "Not you," Adrian said. She stopped. The room quieted again. Adrian pushed the envelope across the black marble until it stopped directly in front of the empty chair beside him. "Sit." Evelyn stared at the chair. In 3 months, she had polished it dozens of times. She had never been allowed to sit in it. Victor's face hardened. "Adrian, Ms. Carter stays." "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you believe intelligence deserves respect no matter what uniform someone wears, hit like and subscribe." Because what Evelyn had just discovered was only the first layer. She lowered herself into the chair. Adrian turned the envelope toward her. "Finish it." Evelyn looked again at the symbols. This time she noticed something she had missed. The second pattern was hiding underneath the first, and when she understood what it said, the blood drained from her face. Because whoever had sent the warning wasn't only telling Adrian Kang where the danger would be, they were telling him something far worse. The danger was already inside the house. 3 months earlier, Evelyn Carter had walked through the iron gates of the Kang estate carrying everything she needed for her new life inside a faded brown handbag. 2 uniforms, a bus pass, $27 in cash, and a past she had no intention of discussing. The mansion rose above Lake Michigan like something built to intimidate the weather itself. Black stone, smoked glass, steel balconies, security cameras hidden beneath perfectly trimmed ivy. Inside, the floors were polished marble, the ceilings impossibly high, and silence seemed to follow every expensive object. Evelyn understood immediately that this was not simply a rich man's home. It was a fortress pretending to be one. 3 rules, the head housekeeper told her on her first morning. Don't enter Mr. Kang's study unless assigned. Don't repeat anything you hear. And don't ask questions. Evelyn adjusted the collar of her gray uniform. "I don't ask questions." That answer earned her the job. For the next 12 weeks, she became exactly what the estate required. Invisible. She arrived before sunrise, cleaned offices after meetings, replaced glasses beside men who stopped acknowledging her the moment they noticed the uniform. She learned which floorboards creaked and which doors locked automatically after midnight. More importantly, she noticed patterns. She couldn't help it. For security cameras covered the eastern corridor, but the third rotated 11 seconds slower than the others. The kitchen delivery code changed every Monday according to a predictable numerical sequence. One guard always checked the west entrance twice. Another never did. Evelyn said nothing. Seeing was a habit. Silence was survival. Most of Adrian Kang's men barely knew her name. To them, she was simply the black maid with the quiet voice and sensible shoes who appeared with coffee and disappeared with empty cups. That suited Evelyn perfectly, until one afternoon. She was sitting alone in the staff kitchen during her 15-minute break, eating half a turkey sandwich and working through the newspaper crossword someone had abandoned near the trash. She filled the squares quickly, not casually, methodically. 9 letters. Ancient writing system. She wrote the answer without hesitation. 8 letters. Cryptographic key. Again, immediate. "You like puzzles?" Evelyn froze. Adrian Kang stood in the doorway. No bodyguards. No jacket. His white shirt sleeves were rolled to his forearms, exposing the edge of dark ink near his wrist. Evelyn closed the newspaper. "Sometimes, sir." Adrian's eyes moved toward the crossword. Nearly every square was filled. In 5 minutes. Evelyn looked at the clock. 7. Something almost resembling amusement touched his face, then disappeared. "You missed 17 across." Evelyn glanced down. "No, sir." Adrian raised an eyebrow. She turned the newspaper toward him. "The clue is deliberately misleading. The answer isn't cipher. It's acrostic." Silence. Adrian looked at the page, then at her. For perhaps 2 seconds, Evelyn had the strange sensation that the most dangerous man in the house was seeing her for the first time. Then footsteps approached from the hallway. Victor Hahn appeared. "There you are. Mercer is waiting upstairs." His gaze dropped to Evelyn sitting at the table. Something cold passed through his expression. "Break's almost over, Carter." Evelyn folded the newspaper. "Yes, Mr. Hahn." She stood. Adrian said nothing. Neither did Evelyn. But as she passed him, she noticed his eyes return to the crossword. 7 weeks later, that tiny moment would matter. Because Adrian Kang would remember the maid who corrected him. He would remember how quickly she saw what other people missed. And on a rain-soaked night, when an unmarked envelope arrived carrying a message no security expert could understand, he would make a decision that went against every instinct that had kept him alive. He would ask Evelyn Carter to read it. What neither of them knew was that someone else had been counting on exactly that. You clean tables. We read threats. Victor Hahn's words landed harder than a slap. For a moment, nobody moved. Rain streaked the black windows behind Adrian Kang as Evelyn Carter stood beside the conference table, surrounded by men who had spent years convincing themselves that danger always wore an expensive suit. Victor pointed toward the doors. Leave. Evelyn felt heat rise into her face. She had endured that tone before. From hotel managers, restaurant owners, wealthy guests who handed her empty glasses without looking at her. Usually, she survived by saying nothing. Tonight, silence could get someone killed. I'm sorry, Mr. Hahn, she said quietly. But you're wrong. Victor's expression hardened. A security officer near the wall gave a humorless laugh. About what? The message. Evelyn looked at Adrian. The characters aren't random. Victor stepped between them. That's enough. No, Adrian's voice was soft. Victor stopped. Adrian pushed the envelope toward Evelyn. Explain. Every eye followed her hands. Evelyn didn't touch the paper. Start with the first character. Count 7 spaces. Adrian did. Then 7 again. His finger moved. Once. Twice. Again. The room changed. The symbols that had looked meaningless began producing numbers. 2140. Victor's face lost some of its color. That could be coincidence. It could, Evelyn said. She moved to the next sequence. Unless this is also coincidence. 7 characters apart. E, then A, then S, then T. The final 4 letters appeared beneath them. Gate. 2140, East Gate. One of Adrian's security men immediately checked his watch. 9:18 p.m. Another man whispered a curse. Victor stared at Evelyn. How do you know Mr. Kang is leaving through the East Gate? I don't. Don't lie to me. I'm not. You work inside this house. You hear conversations. You clean offices. There it was. The accusation arrived almost instantly. Evelyn had warned them, and somehow that had made her dangerous. Victor leaned closer. Maybe you didn't decode the message. His eyes narrowed. Maybe you already knew what it said. 2 guards shifted near the doorway. Evelyn noticed. So did Adrian. For the first time, fear crawled beneath her ribs. Not because she had done anything wrong. Because innocence meant very little in rooms where powerful men were frightened. Search her, Victor ordered. Stop. Adrian didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The guards froze. Victor turned. Adrian, think about this. A warning appears 20 minutes before departure, and the housekeeper magically understands it. Adrian's expression remained unreadable. Then his eyes moved to Evelyn. How did you know where to start? She hesitated. That question was harder. The spacing. Anyone could notice spacing. Not this spacing. She pointed to the broken line beneath the numbers. It tells you the interval. Adrian studied it. 7. Yes. And the missing character? Evelyn looked again. Something about it bothered her. The missing character means the message isn't finished. Silence. Victor frowned. What does that mean? I don't know yet. Adrian reached for his phone. Cancel the convoy. Victor stared at him. We've been planning this meeting for 6 weeks. Then 6 weeks of planning just became irrelevant. The Koreatown route is secured. Not anymore. Adrian pressed one number. East Gate is burned. Shut it down. Nobody enters or leaves the estate until I say otherwise. The room erupted into controlled motion. Phones appeared. Orders were whispered. 2 security officers hurried through the doors. Evelyn stepped backward. She had done what she could. She reached for her tray. Ms. Carter. She stopped. Adrian pointed to the empty chair beside him. Sit. Victor looked almost offended. She's staff. Adrian slowly turned toward him. So were the people who built this house. Victor said nothing. Evelyn lowered herself into the chair. For 3 months, she had cleaned around men seated at this table. Tonight, they were waiting for her to speak. Adrian slid the envelope toward her. You said the message isn't finished. Evelyn studied the symbols again. Then she saw it. A second interval. Not 7. 5. She followed it once. Then again. Her breathing changed. Adrian noticed. What? Evelyn looked around the table. At Victor. At the guards. At men who suddenly seemed far more interested in her than they had been 5 minutes earlier. Then she looked back at Adrian. The East Gate isn't the real warning. His eyes narrowed. What is? Evelyn swallowed. The person who gave them your route, her voice dropped almost to a whisper, is already inside this house. Nobody leaves this house. Adrian Kang's order traveled through the conference room like a blade. Within seconds, the estate changed. Steel security shutters descended over the lower entrances. Electronic locks clicked into place. Men in dark suits moved through the corridors with phones pressed to their ears. Outside, 2 black SUVs waiting beneath the rain were ordered back into the underground garage. The meeting Adrian had spent 6 weeks preparing for was gone in less than 30 seconds. Because a maid had noticed 7 spaces between letters. Evelyn Carter remained seated beside him, staring at the envelope. The chair felt wrong beneath her. Too soft. Too expensive. Too visible. Across the table, Victor Hahn watched her with an expression that had moved beyond contempt. Now there was suspicion. Phones on the table, Adrian said. Nobody argued. One by one, 11 phones touched black marble. Victor placed his down last. Adrian turned to Evelyn. Show me the second pattern. She swallowed. The first message uses intervals of 7. But these marks underneath use 5. Adrian leaned closer. Evelyn counted. 5 characters. Then 5 more. The first letters emerged slowly. R. O. U. T. E. One of the security men whispered, route. Evelyn continued. Her fingertip hovered above the paper. C. O. M. P. R. O. M. I. S. E. D. Route compromised. Nobody spoke. Victor recovered first. That tells us nothing new. Obviously the route is compromised if someone knows the East Gate. No, Evelyn said. His eyes snapped toward her. She almost lowered hers. Almost. The first message tells you where the attack is expected. This one tells you the problem existed before the envelope arrived. Adrian understood immediately. Someone leaked the route. Evelyn nodded. Victor shook his head. Dozens of people had access to logistics. 23, Adrian corrected. Victor's jaw tightened. Adrian looked toward his security chief. Who knew the final departure point? The answer came reluctantly. 7 people. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. 7 people. Several of them were sitting in that room. Evelyn felt it before anyone said it. The atmosphere had changed from defense to distrust. Men stopped looking at the doors. They started looking at each other. Victor slowly turned toward Evelyn. And somehow she's the one who discovers all of this. Evelyn's stomach tightened. Victor, Adrian warned. No. Think about it. She works throughout the house. She has access to rooms we don't monitor because she's staff. Then a coded warning appears, and suddenly she can read it. I told you why. You told us about spacing. Victor leaned forward. You haven't told us who taught you. That question struck deeper. Evelyn became still. Adrian noticed. So he's right, he said. There was no accusation in his voice. That made it worse. You learned this somewhere. Yes. Where? Evelyn looked down at her hands. For years, she had learned to answer questions about herself with small truths. Where did you work before this? A hotel. Education? Some college. Special skills? Housekeeping. Food service. Scheduling. Never the whole answer. Whole answers invited more questions. My father, she said finally. Adrian waited. He taught me patterns when I was a child. Victor gave a quiet laugh. Your father taught his daughter coded communications for fun. Evelyn looked directly at him. Yes. The laugh disappeared. Adrian studied her. What was his name? Her fingers tightened beneath the table. Samuel Carter. Something changed. Not in Adrian. In Victor. It lasted less than a second. A tiny pause. A shallow breath. His thumb stopped moving against the edge of his phone. Anyone else would have missed it. Evelyn didn't. Her father had taught her that too. Patterns weren't only numbers. People had them. Breathing. Blinking. Silence. Adrian turned the envelope over. There's more. Evelyn looked down. A faint row of marks ran along the bottom edge, almost hidden beneath the embossed paper. Her pulse accelerated. She counted them. Once. Then again. The message was incomplete. But one word appeared clearly. Inside. Evelyn slowly raised her eyes. Adrian was already watching her. The route wasn't just leaked, she whispered. What are you saying? Evelyn glanced around the table. 7 men knew the East Gate. One had just reacted to her father's name. And for the first time that night, she understood why the warning frightened her more than the planned ambush. I'm saying you shouldn't be looking for whoever sent this. Her eyes settled briefly on Victor. You should be looking for whoever they were trying to warn you about. My father used to tell me that the most dangerous message is the one everyone thinks they understand. Evelyn Carter hadn't spoken Samuel Carter's name in years. Not to employers. Not to coworkers. Certainly not inside a locked mansion where 7 armed men were now wondering whether she belonged at the table or under interrogation. Adrian Kang studied her across the black marble. What exactly did your father teach you? Evelyn looked at the envelope. Patterns. Substitution systems. Acrostics. Numerical sequences. Anything that could hide one meaning inside another. Victor Hahn folded his arms. That's an unusual childhood. It was. The answer came without apology. Evelyn remembered Saturday mornings at their small kitchen table in Bronzeville. Her father would drink coffee while covering yellow legal pads with numbers and letters. To 12-year-old Evelyn, they were games. Find the hidden sentence. Break the sequence. Spot the symbol that didn't belong. Samuel never let her guess. Patterns don't care what you believe, he would tell her. Either they repeat, or they don't. Years later, Evelyn understood that he had been teaching her more than puzzles. She had followed that gift into college. Computational linguistics. Cryptography electives. Night after night in fluorescent computer labs while other students slept. For a while, Evelyn had believed intelligence could build a straight road out of poverty. Then her father died. Her mother's health collapsed 6 months later. Tuition became rent. Textbooks became medical bills. The future became whatever job paid fastest. She left school with 1 semester unfinished. Hotel housekeeping came first. Then restaurant shifts. Office cleaning. Private homes. Eventually, the Kang estate. Adrian listened without interrupting. You were studying cryptography? Among other things. And you never mentioned this when you applied. Evelyn almost smiled. The application asked whether I could clean marble without leaving streaks. Nobody spoke. She looked around the table. It didn't ask whether I could recognize a transposition cipher. One security officer lowered his eyes. Victor didn't. So you expect us to believe someone with that education simply became a maid? Evelyn turned toward him. No, Mr. Hahn. I expect you to understand that bills don't care what degree you almost finished. The room went silent. Adrian's expression shifted. Not pity. Something Evelyn respected more. Recognition. She continued, quieter now. People see the uniform and assume the story started there. Her fingers rested beside the envelope. Nobody here ever asked what I knew, Mr. Kang. They only asked what rooms I could clean. Adrian lowered his eyes for a moment. That sentence found a place even his power couldn't defend. Then he looked at Victor. You reacted to Samuel Carter's name. Victor's face hardened. I reacted because we're wasting time. No, Adrian leaned back. You stopped moving. Victor gave a cold smile. Now the maid reads body language too? Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't need to. Adrian had seen it. Victor pushed away from the table. We have a compromised route, an unidentified sender, and potentially an internal leak. We should be interrogating staff, not listening to her childhood memories. He turned toward the door. Sit down. Adrian's voice stopped him. Victor slowly looked back. For the first time that night, something almost invisible passed between the two men. Not anger. History. Victor returned to his chair. Evelyn looked down at the envelope again. She needed distance from their tension. Patterns were safer than people. She examined the lower symbols. 5, 7, 5. Then 3 marks arranged diagonally. Her breath caught. No. She leaned closer. The 3rd mark had a tiny slash through its center. Evelyn's fingers began trembling. Adrian noticed immediately. What? She didn't answer. She counted again. The room disappeared. She was 12 years old again, sitting at that scratched kitchen table while Samuel Carter drew the same symbol in blue ink. A private marker. His marker. He had called it the crooked star. A signature hidden inside every puzzle he created for his daughter, so she would always know which messages were truly his. Adrian leaned closer. Evelyn. She finally looked up. All the color had drained from her face. This code wasn't designed for your security team. Victor's eyes narrowed. Adrian became perfectly still. Then who was supposed to recognize it? Evelyn stared at the tiny crooked star. Her father had been dead for 9 years. Yet his private symbol was sitting inside Adrian Kang's warning. Her voice broke when she answered. Me. That symbol died with my father. Evelyn Carter's words barely crossed the table. Yet Adrian Kang heard something in them that made him stop looking at the envelope and start looking at her. Not the maid. Not the employee. Her. Evelyn touched the crooked star with one trembling finger. My father put this mark inside every puzzle he made for me. Never at the beginning. Never where anyone would notice. Victor Hahn shifted in his chair. Adrian caught it. So whoever created this knew Samuel Carter. No, Evelyn whispered. Her eyes remained fixed on the symbol. They knew me. The distinction chilled the room. Adrian leaned forward. Who knew you would be working here? The employment agency. Mrs. Bennett from staffing. The head housekeeper. Anyone else? Evelyn shook her head. I didn't even know I was coming here until the morning of my interview. Adrian's jaw tightened. That changed everything. The envelope had not merely arrived at the right house. It had arrived in the one room where Evelyn Carter would eventually see it. Victor exhaled impatiently. We're building a conspiracy around a childhood doodle. Evelyn looked at him. It isn't a doodle. Your father has been dead 9 years. I know how long he's been dead. Her voice sharpened for the first time. Victor fell silent. Evelyn lowered her eyes again. The pain passed. The pattern remained. That was something her father had taught her too. When emotion became too loud, return to what could be proven. She rotated the envelope 90 degrees. The crooked star aligned with 3 tiny breaks in the decorative border. Her breath stopped. What? Adrian asked. It's a key. She counted backward from the symbol. 3, 9, 4. 3 again. Letters emerged. Not words at first. Initials. SC. Then another sequence. EC Samuel Carter. Evelyn Carter. Adrian's face became perfectly still. This message was built around both of you. Evelyn continued decoding. The next line took longer. Her hands stopped trembling. That frightened her more. Find the ledger. She stared at the words. A memory surfaced. Her father's apartment after his funeral. Boxes stacked beside the door. Old books. Yellow legal pads. A battered metal case she had never managed to open. Evelyn had eventually placed it in storage with everything else she couldn't bear to throw away. What ledger? Adrian asked. I don't know. Victor's chair scraped against the floor. This is absurd. Adrian turned. Victor was already standing. You seem eager to leave. I'm eager to keep you alive. Then sit. The words were quiet. Victor obeyed. But Evelyn saw it again. His breathing. Too shallow. His right hand closing before relaxing. Samuel had once told her that people could lie with language long before they learned to lie with rhythm. Adrian's phone vibrated. His security chief answered another line across the room, listened, then went pale. Boss. Adrian looked up. We checked the east gate. Silence. There was a delivery van parked 2 blocks away. Engine running. False plates. It pulled out the moment we shut down the convoy. Nobody needed the rest explained. The warning had been real. The route had been compromised. Adrian slowly turned toward Evelyn. 20 minutes earlier, she had entered carrying coffee. Now every man in the room was alive because she had refused to stay invisible. But Evelyn wasn't thinking about that. She was staring at the final symbols beneath the crooked star. There was one more message. Shorter. Personal. She decoded it twice because she desperately wanted the first reading to be wrong. Adrian saw her expression. What does it say? Evelyn lifted her eyes. For 9 years, she had believed Samuel Carter's secrets had been buried with him. Tonight, someone had reached into that grave and placed one directly into her hands. Her voice became almost inaudible. It says, she looked toward Victor. Trust no one who remembers your father. Then we don't hunt the traitor, Adrian Kang said. We let the traitor choose himself. Evelyn Carter looked up from the envelope. Victor Hahn frowned. What does that mean? Adrian stood. For the first time that night, he seemed completely calm. That frightened Evelyn more than anger would have. 7 people knew the East Gate, Adrian said. 7 people had access to the final route. His eyes moved around the table. So we give them 7 different routes. Nobody spoke. Victor's jaw tightened. You want to feed false information to your own people? I want to know which information comes back. Adrian turned toward Evelyn. Can you mark each version without making the differences obvious? She understood immediately. A fingerprint. Yes. Evelyn looked at the men surrounding her. Hours earlier, some of them would not have trusted her to touch their paperwork. Now Adrian Kang was asking her to design the trap. I can do it. Victor laughed softly. This is insane. Adrian ignored him. 20 minutes later, the conference room had become something entirely different. Maps covered the table. Phones had been replaced with encrypted tablets. Evelyn created 7 nearly identical versions of Adrian's revised movement plan. Lakeshore Drive, West Loop, Chinatown, River North. Each contained tiny variations. A punctuation change, an unnecessary abbreviation, a number written as a word. Details no ordinary reader would remember, but Evelyn would. Version 3, she explained, uses a period after the departure time. Version 4 doesn't. Adrian watched her work. No hesitation. No wasted movement. The trembling made from earlier was gone. This was the woman life had buried beneath uniforms and unpaid bills. Version 6, he asked. North is abbreviated. And 7. Evelyn tapped the final page. The arrival time is written 11:15 instead of 23:15. Adrian nodded. Send them. One by one, the false plans disappeared into private channels. Then there was nothing to do but wait. That was the hardest part. Rain struck the windows. The grandfather clock outside the room counted seconds with merciless precision. 10:03, 10:11, 10:26. Nobody spoke unless necessary. Evelyn sat beside Adrian in the surveillance room, staring at 6 monitors displaying empty streets around Chicago. Victor stood behind them, too quiet. At 10:31, Adrian's security chief entered. We intercepted communication. Every head turned. Location: River North. Evelyn's pulse jumped. Which address? He read it. She closed her eyes. She knew immediately. Version 4. Silence. Adrian looked toward the list. Version 4 had been given to Marcus Vale. 2 guards moved. Marcus shot to his feet. You think I leaked it? Sit down, Adrian said. I've worked for you 12 years. Marcus slammed his palm against the table. You're trusting a housekeeper over me? Evelyn flinched. Adrian didn't. I'm trusting evidence. Marcus stared at him. Then Evelyn noticed something. The intercepted message displayed on the monitor. River North. Correct address. Correct departure time. But one detail was wrong. There was a period after the time. Version 4 did not have one. Evelyn stood. Wait. Everyone froze. Adrian turned. What? That isn't Marcus's message. Victor's face changed. Barely. But she saw it. Evelyn approached the monitor. Version 4 identifies River North. But the punctuation came from version 2. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Who received version 2? Nobody answered. He looked down at the distribution list, then slowly raised his eyes. Victor Hahn, the man Adrian had trusted for 14 years. The man who had mocked Evelyn for cleaning tables. The man who had reacted when she spoke Samuel Carter's name. Victor took one step backward. Adrian's voice became dangerously quiet. You combined 2 versions. Victor said nothing. To frame Marcus. Still nothing. The room seemed to stop breathing. Evelyn looked at Victor's right hand. It was moving toward the inside of his jacket. Adrian, she never finished. 3 guards drew their weapons. Victor froze mid-motion. And for the first time all night, the man who had told Evelyn Carter to know her place finally understood his own. You knew my father. Evelyn Carter's voice cut through the silence before Adrian Kang could speak. Victor Hahn stood frozen beneath the cold ceiling lights, 3 weapons trained on his chest, his right hand still inches from the inside of his jacket. Slowly, he raised both hands. Adrian's face revealed nothing. Take out whatever you were reaching for. Victor hesitated. Slowly, 2 fingers entered his jacket. He removed a phone. Not the phone he had placed on the conference table. A second one. Adrian's eyes turned to ice. 14 years of loyalty collapsed in the space between them. You carried a private phone into my house. Victor said nothing. Adrian held out his hand. Give it to me. Victor obeyed. The screen was locked. Evelyn barely noticed. She was staring at the man who had reacted to Samuel Carter's name. You knew him, she repeated. Victor finally looked at her. Yes. The answer struck harder than denial. Evelyn's throat tightened. How? Victor lowered his hands only after Adrian nodded to the guards. Your father worked for a communications contractor 15 years ago. Small company. Government clients. Private clients. What does that have to do with Adrian? More than he knew. Adrian's expression sharpened. Victor looked toward him. Your father built legitimate shipping companies to protect the family business. Warehouses. Logistics. Imports. I know what he built. No. You know what you inherited. The room became still. Victor continued. Someone used those companies to move money and information outside your organization. Samuel discovered it while auditing encrypted traffic. Evelyn felt the floor disappear beneath her. My father was a linguist. He was also very good at noticing things powerful men preferred invisible. The words landed differently now. Adrian glanced at Evelyn. Victor almost smiled. He found a network buried inside Kang operations. Payments, names, officials, businessmen, people who would destroy each other to keep those records hidden. The ledger, Evelyn whispered. Victor nodded. Samuel copied everything. Evelyn remembered the battered metal case in storage. The one she had never opened. Did they kill him? Victor looked away. That was answer enough. Evelyn's eyes filled, but no tears fell. For 9 years, she had accepted the official story. A late-night accident. Wet pavement. A driver who disappeared. Now the rain against Adrian's windows sounded exactly like the rain from the night police came to her mother's door. Adrian stood. Who sent the envelope? I don't know. A guard stepped closer. Victor lifted his chin. That part is true. Then why target tonight? Because the people Samuel exposed are moving again. Your meeting would have given them access to something they've wanted for years. Adrian's voice dropped. What? Victor looked at Evelyn. Her. Nobody moved. Evelyn's breath caught. They couldn't open Samuel's archive, Victor said. Not without his key structure. He designed it around personal references, memories, games, things only his daughter would understand. Evelyn stared at him. So my employment here wasn't an accident. The words hollowed out the room. Someone had found her. Someone had guided her into Adrian Kang's house. Not because she was disposable, because she was necessary. Adrian stepped between Evelyn and Victor. It was a small movement. Instinctive. Protective. Who arranged her placement? Victor's silence returned. Adrian's eyes hardened. Who? Victor looked toward the rain-black windows. You still don't understand. His voice had lost its arrogance. Now it carried fear. I wasn't the one who put Evelyn here. Adrian became motionless. Victor looked directly at her. I've spent 3 months trying to figure out who did. Evelyn felt cold spread through her chest. The traitor they had uncovered wasn't the architect. He was afraid of the architect. Victor nodded toward the coded envelope. Whoever sent that warning knew Samuel's private symbol. They knew Adrian's route. They knew you would be serving this room tonight. He paused. And they knew you would be the only person alive who could read it. Evelyn looked down at the crooked star. For the first time, she understood the terrifying truth. She had never accidentally walked into Adrian Kang's world. Someone had placed her there, and the game had begun long before she knew she was playing. Who is she? 3 weeks later, the question came from a man Evelyn Carter had never seen before. He stood inside Adrian Kang's conference room in a navy suit, holding a leather portfolio against his chest as he watched Evelyn enter. This time, she carried no coffee, no silver tray, no cleaning cloth. The same black marble table stretched beneath the warm evening lights. The same windows overlooked Chicago. The same chair waited beside Adrian. But everything else had changed. Victor Hahn was gone. The compromised meeting had never happened. The encrypted phone recovered from him had opened doors Adrian's organization had not known existed. Shell companies, hidden payments, names buried beneath years of legitimate business. Victor had told the truth about one thing. Samuel Carter had found something enormous. And somewhere inside a storage facility on Chicago's south side sat the locked metal case Evelyn had inherited from him. She had retrieved it 2 days earlier. She still couldn't open it. Not yet. Adrian looked toward the newcomer. This is Evelyn Carter. The man waited, clearly expecting more. Evelyn recognized the look. She had seen it hundreds of times. The uniform might be gone tonight, replaced by a simple black blouse and dark trousers. But judgment had its own language. Adrian noticed too. She advises me on encrypted communications. The man blinked. Evelyn almost smiled. 3 weeks earlier, Adrian Kang's men had laughed because a maid interrupted their security meeting. Now nobody laughed. She took the chair beside him. Her chair. Adrian slid a tablet across the table. We received this 40 minutes ago. Evelyn studied the screen. Rows of symbols. Numbers. Fragments of Korean and English mixed deliberately together. The newcomer leaned forward. Our analysts believe it's corrupted. Evelyn read silently. 10 seconds. 20. Then she shook her head. It isn't corrupted. The man frowned. How can you tell? Because corruption is random. She enlarged one section. This repeats. Adrian's eyes settled on her. The same look he had given her that first afternoon over the crossword. Except now there was no surprise in it. Only trust. Can you read it? Not yet. Evelyn paused. But I know where to start. Outside, the city glittered beneath a clear sky. For years, Evelyn had believed life had reduced her. College dropout, housekeeper, waitress, maid. She understood now that none of those words had ever described her mind. They had described circumstances. Nothing more. The meeting ended after midnight. As the others left, Evelyn remained beside the window. Adrian approached quietly. Your mother's medical debt has been cleared. Evelyn turned sharply. I didn't ask you to do that. I know. Then undo it. Adrian looked genuinely surprised. Evelyn held his gaze. I saved your life. That doesn't mean you own mine. Silence. Then something changed in Adrian's expression. Respect. Not gratitude. Not pity. Respect. You're right. He took out his phone. I'll reverse it tomorrow. Evelyn nodded. But there is something you can do. What? Help me finish school. Adrian's eyes narrowed slightly. I don't want charity. I want time. A schedule that lets me finish the semester I lost. For several seconds, the Korean Mafia Boss who could command entire rooms said nothing. Then he extended his hand. Done. Evelyn looked at it before taking it. No kneeling. No rescue. No debt. An agreement between two people who finally understood what the other could do. Months later, a new visitor entered that same conference room and glanced toward Evelyn. Who is she? Adrian didn't even look up. He pushed an encrypted file across the table toward her. The reason we're still sitting here. The room went silent. Evelyn opened the file. Her eyes steady. For months, they had trusted her to clean rooms while never wondering what kind of mind moved quietly through them. They had looked at her uniform and mistaken circumstance for worth. Adrian Kang had nearly paid for that blindness with his life. And that day, the world remembered what dignity looks like.